especially in the beginning, if I got a question or I noticed that my followers or my viewers had the same kinds of questions, I first had to understand it myself. Like first had to learn it so that I understood it, and then I was able to teach it to others in a way that made sense. So it's been very interesting, and I've learned so much, and I've started thinking about our language in a way that you just never do when you're a native speaker.
You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Charisse. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Welcome back to another episode of Speaking Tongues. I am your host, El Charisse, and today I'm here with Katrin. Katrin is the creator of Slow Swedish, the #1 account teaching Swedish online. She's the host of the Learn Swedish and Slow Swedish with Katrin podcast and focuses on bridging the gap between Duolingo and spoken native Swedish. I'm so happy to have you here today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited to be on the podcast and for Swedish to finally be featured as well.
No, this is a big day.
Indeed, yes.
This is a really big day. So there's no one better to have this conversation with than the #1 Swedish online personality. So I'm psyched. I'm psyched to talk to you. I like to start each episode with the same question, and that is, what is your first language and which languages have you learned to speak?
Yeah, so I grew up in Sweden, and my mom is actually from Finland, which I'll touch on a little bit later, but she spoke Swedish to me and my siblings, and my dad is from the US. So we grew up speaking Swedish and English as our first languages. And in school, I started studying German. And as an adult, I've been studying Spanish, and I'm about to embark on my Finnish journey this summer. So that'll be a completely new beast to tackle. But yeah, the Swedish English is languages of choice.
Yeah. Have you had any exposure to Finnish at all? Like either growing up or? Okay.
Yeah. So my pronunciation is already very good because I have been exposed to it growing up. My grandma spoke Finnish. She knew Swedish and she tried to kind of teach us a little Finnish, but it didn't really work. We weren't spending enough time together for that to really stick. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's not the same kind of language family as Swedish and English, so it'll be a big challenge.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that'll be fun though.
Yeah.
Did you want to learn when you were growing up Finnish, or did you were not interested at all in learning it?
Not at all. No. Finnish has always been the part that I kind of just pretend isn't there because it's not cool. It's not like fancy in any way. Or at least that was my perception when I grew up. So I always hated listening to Finnish. I got frustrated when my mom would speak Finnish with my grandma and her partner because I couldn't understand anything. It's completely impossible to guess what people are talking about if you don't kind of know the language. So no, my relationship with Finnish has always been not interested. Get away from me. But now that I'm getting older and my mom is exploring her Finnish side more, she moved to Sweden when she was 4. So she has always kind of like, she's grown up and it's been kind of this thing that you are a bit ashamed of in a way, like being Finnish in Sweden. Growing up, she just wanted to be Swedish. So she's exploring that now more, and I'm kind of tagging along. And hopefully I'll be able to learn. We'll see.
That's really powerful. A lot of us grow up and we're like, whatever our mom or our dad is trying to push on us, or, part of them, like we want to make our own way in the world. So it's, it's not wrong that you felt that way growing up or anything, but you're here now. So that's amazing. That's really cool. I want to talk about Swedish. Tell me, how did you begin through your content sharing the Swedish language with people, and what were some of the initial ideas that you had or reasons for wanting to share the language in this way?
So I think I've always thought of myself as the like involuntary Swedish teacher or content creator because just like my Finnish side, my Swedish side has also always been like a ugh,
Mm,
let's not talk about that. I'm American, which
okay.
I mean, I'm just like that was how I was raised in a way. Maybe I always thought of my Swedish side as like, ugh, it's just, it's not cool. It's
Mm,
not like everything about Sweden is lame and dorky. And yeah, I just don't want to associate with it. So
okay.
when I was a content creator and a YouTuber, I started kind of doing YouTube. That was my first platform. It wasn't a secret that I was from Sweden and that I lived in Sweden, but I didn't want to create any content related to Sweden or Swedish.
Hmm.
But my followers kept like nagging me and begging me, like, please teach us Swedish or just talk about Sweden. We love Sweden. Sweden is cool, like all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually I caved and started incorporating more Swedish content on my channel. And eventually I kind of got the idea maybe I should create a separate channel creating fun content in slow Swedish
Mm,
because usually when it comes to content, it's either a like good level for people who are learning. So it might be slow, clear, a little simpler topics, maybe, but it's aimed at children.
right.
It's like, oh, watch Curious George in Swedish. And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Well, that's good, but it might not be what everybody is interested in watching."
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, maybe I should create some regular like influencer content, but in Swedish that people who are learning can understand. That was the birth of slow Swedish.
Yeah.
And it was super popular. People loved it. But maybe a year or so later, I completely quit YouTube altogether and just changed my career path. And slow Swedish kind of died with it. So I quit that. And I think it might have been 2 or 3 years where I would receive messages and emails from people weekly just asking me to please start doing slow Swedish again.
Hmm.
And my brain was so set on like slow Swedish is YouTube. I hate YouTube. No, that was just what I was thinking. I was like, no, 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 I'm not doing YouTube again. But then it hit me after I got a bunch of amazing messages from people saying how much slow Swedish had helped them. It hit me that, well, I've never done slow Swedish on Instagram, and I really love creating content on Instagram. Maybe this could be something.
Hmm.
So I started an account and it completely blew up, and now we're here. So that's kind of how that all happened. I never planned on it being this way. I never really wanted to be a Swedish teacher, but I love teaching. I love helping people. And this is the most effortless job I've ever had in my entire life. And I've never been met with so much gratitude.
Hmm.
Anything I've done before. So it's just the
Yeah.
perfect combo.
Oh, I love that. That's a great story. We are going to go back to you thinking that Swedish is dorky when Sweden has given the world so much. I mean, we'll get back to it. We'll definitely get back to it. But I think that your ideas and the content that you create is really wonderful and helpful for Swedish learners. But I imagine that you as a Swedish speaker living in Sweden, in order to share the language in the way that you do, there's maybe a lot of coming to your own language with a different set of eyes. What has that process been like, and like, what have you learned for yourself as you're having to deconstruct your language for the learner?
It's been a lot of fun and it's absolutely necessary. I see so many people start like they I don't know if they look at me or look at other successful content creators, but they probably look at what we do and think that looks so easy. I'm going to do that. So they
Yeah.
start an account and they start creating content and it just does not really hit the spot.
Mm,
They're not thinking of Swedish from the perspective of a learner. They're
right.
just thinking from their own perspective, and that just doesn't work.
Mhm.
So I had I mean, I have so many years of experience creating content. So already there, I have that kind of content brain. But tackling a language that I myself have, almost for various reasons, never studied. Like, I have never really learned about Swedish. I have just gone to school and everything has been in Swedish, but I've never really studied the language itself. And it's been so much fun to kind of myself learn everything that I need to know in order to teach it to my students. But also the fact that I'm not a teacher, I haven't studied the language and the grammar and all of that stuff. It really helps me to not get stuck in the teacher brain, teacher mindset, because that does not always translate into fun content. So I usually, especially in the beginning, I would always like, if I got a question or I noticed that my followers or my viewers had the same kinds of questions, I first had to understand it myself. Like first had to learn it so that I understood it, and then I was able to teach it to others in a way that made sense. So it's been very interesting, and I've learned so much, and I've started thinking about our language in a way that you just never do when you're a native speaker. And I've become somewhat of a fun fact machine for my friends and family when it comes to Swedish. Because all of these sayings that we have, like, now I know the origin of the saying and why we say it that way. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Tell me some of the things that you've learned along the way that surprised you, or...
I mean, I think I always knew that the genders that we have in the language for our nouns, we have gendered nouns, em and et, and they're used basically in the same way as the English and un. But and un, they have logic. It's like, followed by a noun, you do this, not followed by a noun, you do that. And it's easy to learn, and it's just great. En and et just does not follow any logic. Like a lot of people like making up logic. They're like, no, it's actually like all living beings are N words, and all jobs you can have are it words. But that's just not true. Like, there are so many exceptions that I always say, don't bother with these tips and tricks, because they're just like, it's not gonna work. You really have to learn each and every word on its own with its gender.
Okay.
And that I've always, I guess, kind of known it, but I haven't really understood how challenging it is and how much and it affects the rest of your sentence. It changes all of the adjectives. It changes everything when you speak in different tenses and all that kind of stuff. Because even when I studied German, we would be like, oh my God, der, die, das is so random. But even there, I felt like it was less random than our genders. And when I studied Spanish, I mean, that was a piece of cake. You could very easily tell if it's el or la. And if there was an exception, you could just learn the exceptions and you're good to go. But our genders are very tricky. And another part that I think it's my favorite thing to teach, because it's so neglected by all Swedish students. And that is the reversed word order that we use. Some people call it the V2 rule, which means the verb always comes in second place. Because in English, like, a lot of the time, it's the same in Swedish and English. I am eating food now. Jag äter mat nu. Okay, great. Same thing. But when you start a sentence in Swedish with what, how, when, where, whom, like anything like that, the subject and the verb switch places. So in Swedish, that would be nu, now, äter jag mat. Now, eating I food. And this is something that it's not required to make yourself understood. Like, you never, no Swede would ever go, whoa, what are you saying if you get it wrong? We always understand you. It's okay. And that means that a lot of people just don't prioritize learning it.
I see.
And it's the biggest giveaway that you're not as like fluent as you might sound if you don't get the word order right. So I always tell my students, like, focus on this reversed word order and you will sound way more advanced than you might be, just because it's such a common mistake that everybody makes. I mean, you can kind of feel it in English too, that sometimes, like a lot of the time, you start with the subject. I'm going to the grocery store now, or we will see each other tomorrow, or we went to the restaurant after that. That's fine. But sometimes you want to say after that, we went to the restaurant, or tomorrow I'll see you and your sister. Like sometimes you just want to mix it up a little.
Yeah.
And when starting the sentence with some kind of a where, what, how, when, whom kind of word, you just have to swap them around.
I see. Okay. All right. I wanted to go back to the N and et as you were talking about that. I would love to hear some examples of how we're using them.
So let's say in Swedish, we actually love taking two words and putting them together. So in English, you will more or less always separate the words. So ceiling lamp or dog walker. We would put those words together. We always put two words together. And that can become tricky. So say we have ett tak, a ceiling, and we have en lampa, a lamp. So ett tak, en lampa. En taklampa, a ceiling lamp, becomes en because it's the last word in the combined word that decides the gender. So whether it's ett that's put together or en ett that's put together, if ett is last, the whole word becomes an ett word. And when it comes to adjectives, we would say huset. So ett hus is a house. Huset, you kind of take the little ett and put it at the end of the word. The house är fint. Fint is pretty. And if it was an N word, like en hund, a dog, if the dog is pretty, it would be hund en. We take the little n and put it at the end. The dog, hunden, är fin. No T at the end. So I usually tell my students that the N words, 80% of all the nouns. So let's just call the N nouns the originals. And we just think of it as the kooky cousin that is just weird and sometimes shows up 20% of the time. So we just focus on learning everything for N and just think of that as this is the rule. It's N. Learn all the adjectives for N. Fin, ful, ugly, gul, yellow. Just learn them for N. And then when you want to use an kooky cousin et word, you just usually add a T to the end. Gult, fult, fint. And N and et also changes possessive pronouns. Min hund, my dog. Mitt hus, my house. So it switches it up a lot. Vår hund, our dog. Vårt hus, our house.
Okay. This is my exposure to Swedish right now, and I feel like I'm getting it. I'm like, oh, wait, I have to dabble in a little Swedish too. This is really cool. This is really, really cool. So you have people who are coming to you, they're learning Swedish. And these, would you say that these are the biggest issues that people seem to come back to over and over again because they're trying to master it, they're trying to perfect it?
Yeah. And I would say people, compared to the reversed word order, which I think people don't spend enough time worrying about, I think people obsess over N and et way too much. Like you're never going to get it 100% right. If you have to guess, go for N because the odds are in your favor. But like we understand you either way. There's a tricky one, like coffee can be en or et.
Okay.
It changes what it means depending on if it's en kaffe or et kaffe. En kaffe is like a cup of coffee. Et kaffe is more like the brand or the kind where it's from, the coffee itself. But that's an exception.
Yeah.
So I think definitely don't worry about en and et so much. More so if you enjoy it, go nuts, have fun. But I mean, the more you listen to the language, the better you're going to get at remembering and kind of picking up if, like, does en sound natural here or not? You can only pick that up by just listening and exposing yourself to the language a lot. I was also thinking a lot of people give it's like a life hack that is one of the worst life hacks I've ever come across, and it was my biggest pet peeve in the beginning of teaching Swedish, and still is one of my biggest pet peeves because this is a trick given by Swedes, and they don't understand that it's not helpful.
Okay.
And I find it hilarious, but also very frustrating.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, when you go from like a house to the house, you take the gender of the noun and you just put it at the end of the word. Ett hus, hus ett. En hund, hund en. So it's just kind of the same. So a lot of people are like, well, it's not actually that hard to learn en and ett. You just have to think, wait, is it hunden or hundet? And then you know if it's en or et.
That's not telling me anything.
That's not telling anyone anything.
Yeah.
Because you have to know if it's en or et in order to create hunden. And if you can create hunden, you already know en. So it's just the worst tip ever because it like in order to use the tip, you have to already know the thing you're struggling with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a terrible tip altogether. With that said, if you have learned a noun, you've learned maybe mobilen, this phone, mobilen. I wonder if that's en or et. In that case, it's helpful because it's not mobilet, it's mobilen. So then you know it's en mobil. That's great. But if you come across just the noun itself, just saying, well, say it in definite form and you're good to go. That doesn't work.
That's not helpful. Okay. That's why I asked you, because it's so difficult. It can be so difficult for some people who are, native speakers or, grew up speaking the language to even understand what it's like to be a learner, because you really have to deconstruct it in such a way. You can't rely on intuition because you have no intuition when you're learning.
Exactly.
You don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned also that you came across some sayings in Swedish that, now you know the meaning behind them or their origin. Are there any that stand out to you and any that, you find a lot of fun to talk about, or you find yourself always tell, oh, did you know this or did you know that? Are there any of those kind of sayings you've encountered?
Yeah, so I actually did a little self-study course with 100 Swedish sayings and what they mean and how to use them. So I have a library of fun ones, but there was this one that my mom would always say. Like, it's a little bit old-fashioned. I don't hear a lot of people say it, but my mom has always said it all the time. And it's det är hugget som stucket. It translates kind of to it's basically the motion you would do with a knife. So either you do like I guess, would this be a stab or is this a stab? This is a jab, maybe.
I mean, so this, and for the listener, this is like
overhand
or
straight
right
forward.
in the gut. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question. They're both in the stab family.
I guess in Swedish, you could relate it also to the chopping motion of chopping wood.
Okay.
So one of them would be chopping and one of them would be stabbing. So the saying is, oh, it's chopped and stabbed, or it's chopped or stabbed. And what it means is, oh, it doesn't matter. Same. Like it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew where it came from, but turns out it's a fencing term. You get the same amount of points whether you chop someone or you stab them. And like you can win either way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you do X or Y or Z. It's chopped and stabbed. It is what it is. Like it doesn't matter. Well, I love that one.
Yeah. When you were looking at 100 Swedish sayings and you're in this course and maybe you're analyzing them or researching them, did you notice any patterns in terms of what these phrases were saying about Swedish life, Swedish history, Swedish culture, Swedish people?
I find it so challenging to like shut my brain off to the stereotypes or to like what I have been told is Swedish
Mm-hmm.
and just really think of it from my own experience and my own perspective. I noticed that there were a lot of old kind of farm related sayings,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the like maybe religious sayings that have to do with like the devil and bad luck and things like that. I also did a course with 100 curse words in Swedish and how to use them and what they mean. And that was also very related to religion.
Mm-hmm.
And there were quite a lot of sports references.
Okay.
So the fencing one, there was one about swimming. So when you're swimming in a pool and you're competing, we say ända in i kaklet, which means all the way to the tile. Don't slow down until you touch the tile.
Right.
And we use that in all like areas of life. We just have to keep going until we're done. Do not slow down until we cross the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
There's also ring rusty is a common one in Swedish, which means like when a boxer hasn't been boxing for a while, they're a little rusty in the boxing ring.
Oh, okay.
And that we also use in all areas of life. If you're not really, you haven't done something in a while, you're a little rusty, you're ring rusty. And it's a boxing reference. So there are all kinds, but there was nothing that really stood out to me as, that it would say anything in particular, unless I actually went looking for something like, oh, we have this word for being just not too much, not too little, just right. And that says a lot about Swedes because we are mellow and calm. But I mean, I don't know if that's true. It's a little bit made up because it sounds cool.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely did not want to imply that I was looking for stereotypes on Swedish people because we don't do that here. We don't stereotype. But I asked because I am interested in I'm interested in sayings. I'm interested in folklore. I love history and you know what our societies have been through, what our history looks like. And sometimes I notice that, you know, even with humor is another one. I feel like sometimes we see patterns or like old sayings because all of our moms have old sayings that we don't hear very commonly anymore. But maybe they'll, like you said, they'll refer to like sports or they'll refer to farm life or maybe something that came out of a prosperous period or a depressed period in time. Um, and I think that a lot of, if not most of our cultures have phrases or words or terms that, you know, come out of that. So that's really why I was asking. I'm not trying to put Swedish people in a box because you contain multitudes and we're celebrating that. Just wanted to clarify. How have you been able to reflect on your own self, your identity, your connection to your own language or your observations about how Swedish people connect to their language?
It's been, I wouldn't say necessarily challenging because I haven't embarked on a like active journey to reflect, but I have been forced to passively because of the work that I do. And I think a big reason why I've had this kind of weird relationship with Sweden and Swedish and all of that is because I was raised in a home with very American traditions.
Okay.
I think the only tradition we didn't do was Thanksgiving. So I don't really have a relationship to Thanksgiving, but all of these Swedish holidays like Midsummer and Valborg we have in late March, and all these Swedish traditions and even Christmas, Swedish Christmas, we never did those really. Like my mom would maybe like drag us to the Midsummer celebrations and we'd be like, "Ooh, this sucks." And then we went home. So whenever people see me and they think, "Oh, Swedish, tell us all about being Swedish and Swedish traditions and what do you eat and how do you celebrate?" I'm like, I eat turkey at Christmas. Like, I don't eat the Swedish stuff. And I hated the stereotypes so much because I could not relate to them. I didn't feel like that was my reality. So I never felt comfortable talking about them. Like, yeah, at Christmas, we eat this crazy thing that's kind of like a potato dish with fish in it because we never did.
Mhm.
So it was really hard for me to embrace my Swedish side because I wasn't raised in a typical Swedish way.
Mhm.
So that has always been a struggle. Now, the last 10 or so years, as I've been with my boyfriend of 10 years,
Mhm.
his family is very traditionally Swedish.
Okay.
Their last name is Svensson, which is like the most Swedish name you could ever have. So I have been exposed to a lot more Swedish traditions since we've been together. And that has also helped a little bit. I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about traditions, even though a lot of traditions are formed when you're a child. So it's not quite the same thing. But yeah, I have reflected a lot on that. And with time, both, if you think about the past 10 to 15 years, I'm 31 now. So the past 15 years has been from 15 to 30 ish. And so much has happened in the world during that time. So much has happened in the US during that time and in Sweden. A lot of things have happened here as well. And I have grown up as well. So the things that I thought were really cool and important when I was 15, 20, 22, I do not value the
Yeah.
same way anymore.
Mhm.
So this hyper focus on being American and moving to the US and like living the American dream or whatever, like that was super important to me when I was younger. And today you couldn't pay me to move to the US from Sweden. There is nothing that tempts me to go there. And
Right.
I mean, no offense to any Americans listening, I'm half of you, but it's just I didn't value anything that Sweden had to offer growing up. It
Mhm.
was just like, oh, free healthcare, ugh, whatever, and like, oh, free school, ugh, whatever. High school is so cool. College is so cool. Yeah, it costs money and you're in debt for the rest of your life, but Sweden sucks. Like that was how I was growing up.
Mhm.
And in the last 10 to 15 years, like that has started to shift.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is as that for me started to shift, and like I stopped idolizing the US so much and thinking, oh, it's so amazing. I kind of came back to Sweden and I was like, oh, Sweden is pretty good. But then what was really interesting is Sweden started going south and I started looking over at Finland and I was like, ooh, I'm like kind of Finnish. And that's kind of cool because they know what they're doing and they're great. And Finland is pretty awesome. So now I'm like, yay, I'm Finnish. Which is, I mean, it's silly, but it's true. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be proud of where you're from or your country and all of that. But for me, I've just always looked up to one and hated the other. And that has just switched completely. And yeah, today it's complicated and I'm embracing my Finnish side as much as possible. So it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah. And that deserves to be celebrated because it's not about the end goal. We're always growing and evolving and changing, and the world is changing too. So we're moving along with it and doing the best that we can. Is there anything that you've encountered now in the last 10 years that you're becoming more comfortable with Swedish culture via your boyfriend and his family?
Not necessarily. And like I could go like into a completely different category of like or a different topic and just spiral out of control here. But the short version of the story is like Christmas was always my thing. I loved Christmas. Then my parents got divorced. So after my parents' divorce, I was just like, I don't care about Christmas anymore. This sucks. Like, ugh, whatever. It is what it is. So, but we have like the first year or two after the divorce, we just didn't do any kind of tradition. We didn't have the turkey. We didn't have the stuffing. Like that was awful for me.
Mhm.
But then I brought that back. So now we have like at least the right food and we're just figuring it out. And as for other celebrations, like I feel like a lot of them, and this is just a personality thing for me. I'm very introverted and I don't like being around other people being silly. And a lot of traditions are about dancing around things with other people and doing silly dance stuff. And I've hated it since I was a child, which is probably also why we didn't enjoy going to these festivities because you have to dance and you have to sing and you have to do all these silly things and hold hands with strangers. And it's just never been my thing.
Mhm.
So none of that has really stood out. As an adult, we have celebrated Midsummer with friends. Like we might have a barbecue or we might do something fun, like nothing too like extreme or Swedish. But now, with my job being Sweden related and creating content around Swedish and Sweden, I have embraced it a little bit more. Like, I actually posted something on June 6th, which is our like national or our 4th of July, basically.
Mhm.
Swedes never celebrate whatsoever. Like that's not a thing here. We just say like woo woo Sweden and then we just move on. But I did post something and last year for midsummer I did order like a really beautiful flower crown and I took some pictures and like that's like the level of exploring these traditions that I have reached so far.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend and I are child free, so we're not having any kids. And I can imagine that if we had kids, exploring these traditions would look very different because
Mm.
then you kind of want to give it to the children. But since
Right.
it's just us, so we're adults and our dog doesn't really care, we don't really do that. So I guess my niece and nephew might be the closest I get to like reimagining these traditions and experiencing them again. But
Mhm.
yeah, we'll see about that.
I mean, we can get a flower crown for the dog.
True. Yeah. He would hate it, but it would be a pretty picture. Yeah.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I want to talk about socializing and how you've noticed, this is your experience, how you've noticed people socialized and how you've noticed that people socialize with one another or people who are outside of, people who didn't grow up in Swedish, people who are not living in Sweden. What do those look like?
I think this is the area where I have felt the most Swedish in my life, where I'm like, I'm Swedish for sure, and also known as introvert. But um, I think there are, of course, exceptions to all the kind of stereotypes or just generalizations of like how we function as a people. And I think we have a lot in common with Finns in that way. Like we're quite reserved and not very outgoing and social with strangers. And I think there is a lot of truth to that. And there are different reasons for it, I think. Partially, there's this, and it might be true for a lot of other people as well, but for Swedes especially, we just hate being uncomfortable. And I don't think there are any, like, oh, in Spain, they love being uncomfortable. It's just for Swedes, you being uncomfortable makes me extremely uncomfortable.
I see.
So interacting with strangers, especially strangers that are not fluent in the language, it invites a lot of discomfort unless you are like super outgoing and super relaxed and super like, fine. I find nothing to be uncomfortable. Everything is just amazing.
Mhm.
So a lot of things can trigger this discomfort where we, partially selfishly, we don't want to be uncomfortable, but more so we don't want to make you uncomfortable because it's very important to like respect each other's space, to make sure the other person is feeling okay, and just interacting with people invites so much potential discomfort that I think a lot of us just choose not to.
Mhm.
And in public, we would never just randomly compliment someone or approach someone and talk to them. We don't even sit next to each other on the bus. If there's only one seat available, you would stand, not sit down. Because and it's not this, I think for other cultures and other countries, that can be perceived as us being like, ew, I don't want to be next to you. But what it actually is respect. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to be too close to you. Personal space is super important. I don't want to, yeah, bother you by talking to you or um, asking something of you. I would never like it's that kind of thing where we just want to make sure that everybody is comfortable, and this then spreads into socializing and making friends as well because when it's your time off and it's time to relax and have fun,
Mhm.
if you invite a stranger or someone who doesn't know the language into your friend group, the level of relaxation goes way down
I
because
see.
now we have to worry about this person being happy and this person being comfortable and this person not feeling left out. So it's a big step for Swedes in general to invite others into their friend group or just being like, yeah, tag along and be spontaneous. You can come along. A lot of people do enjoy it, but a lot of people also feel like, well, I think it's best for you and for me that you don't come. Like
Mhm.
it's like, oh, it's better if we just stay comfortable.
Mhm.
And this is the same thing is true again when you try to speak Swedish to a Swede and they can tell that you're struggling or that you're not fluent. For your sake, we will switch to English because it's so much more important for us that we understand each other, that we don't misunderstand each other, that you are comfortable. And a lot of the time, English is the go-to to make everyone comfortable and
Mhm.
able to communicate.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, don't try to speak my language. Nothing to do with that. It's really just like, oh, it sounds like you're struggling. Let me help you by making it easier and we can speak English.
I see.
So that's a big part of our social mentality. Like, don't be in the way, don't bother anyone, don't be too close to anyone, just mind your own business and let loose and go crazy during your own time, like when other people are not around, because then
Okay.
nobody else gets bothered by it, basically.
Okay. I see. I'm gonna ask this question. I don't think I've ever asked this question on a podcast before, but what does dating look like?
That is a good question. And I have never, we don't really, okay, that's not true. When I say we don't really date, I'm speaking as a 20-year-old who has never dated.
That's
Uh, I
fair.
think I think dating has become way like a bigger deal since Tinder. Like I met my boyfriend like the same year Tinder became a thing. So I've never been on Tinder. I've never dated. I've never done any of that. So I don't have any experience, but I know a lot of people talk about how challenging it is
That's what I was,
because
yeah. Like, even if
yeah.
you don't know, we got friends. We hear the
Mhm.
stories. So I'm
Yeah.
sure they're
So it's, and what I can relate to is making friends. And I have been friend dating a
Mhm.
lot
Yeah.
because, and I'm guessing friend dating is kind of similar to regular dating because you have to expose yourself to people to find your person, whether
Yeah.
it's a friend or a partner. And for Swedes, I think a lot of the time alcohol is involved
Okay.
as like a social thing to do. We also have our social, have a coffee and something sweet, our fika, huge part of Swedish culture. So you might meet for a fika or for like, you might go for a walk or you might have something, some alcohol to drink.
Mhm.
But just meeting people spontaneously or yeah, it doesn't really happen much. It's really, really difficult. And when I met my boyfriend, I moved to this tiny, tiny town, 45,000 people, where he grew up. Everybody knows everybody. All friend groups have existed for 30 years. Like, good luck making new friends.
Mhm.
And I really felt that. I felt so
Yeah.
lonely. And even though I met maybe one person there, I met one person there. My hairdresser was really kind. Like, how do you penetrate those friend groups? It's
Yeah.
really hard to be like, well, next time you guys have a girls' night and drink some wine, can I come? Like, you
Yeah.
don't do that. You don't invite yourself to things like that. So it was really challenging. And what ended up happening and what's true today is I just have a bunch of immigrants as my best friends. Like,
Mhm.
they came to town. They are as lonely as I was, as open to making friends as I was, and now we have something fun in common as well, since I do the Swedish thing and they're all learning Swedish. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just ended up connecting with other people in the same boat as me, basically.
Mhm.
And I think as for dating, it must be super difficult. I can't even imagine finding, especially if you are an introvert, because if you're an extrovert, you will find other extroverts. But there are
Right.
so many wonderful people who would rather just be at home or do like a low key date somewhere, like cook together or like something like that, that is not super like, oh, go to the clubs and like party. And how in the world are these people going to meet each other? But
Mm.
in that way, I guess Tinder and apps like that are helpful, but
Yeah.
it really is a challenge.
Getting into Swedishness, what does that look like for you as you're saying it's been challenging to do that?
Well, partially all of these like family traditions that people just have and have grown up with. If you're not, if you're new to Sweden and you know, like, okay, midsummer is on Friday, I don't know what to do or where to go. And like there are celebrations all over town. Like there are loads of celebrations you can go to and do the silly little dance and like sing about the frogs and do all of that stuff. But it's hard when you're new to know where to find them. Where
Mhm.
do I go looking? Where do I find out that there's this big happening at the square in town at this time? Like I know that because I don't understand the website where it says. Like a lot of
Mhm.
those things can be really tricky to know where to find people, and especially if it's a holiday or a celebration that you do at home with friends and family. Like, how in the world are you meant to
Mhm.
find those and like invite yourself and show up? So that can be tricky. And also, I think just these regular hangouts that people do, just like hanging out, do playing a sport together. My friends and I, we play board games a lot. And granted, I started like my immigrant friend group. We started these board game meetups where we would like meet up, play board games, hang out as a little test. And it later became my slow Swedish social meetups where my followers get to come and play board games and practice Swedish and do all that stuff together. So that's really fun. And also, okay, so Swedes meet up and play board games. Where do I find one of those? Like it's so hard to just find people, and to be invited and to just feel like you're a part of it.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah. I was asking that question, I think because there are so many, you know, I was picking up on the phrase Swedishness. And I
Mm,
think in so many parts of the world, there's a ness and, attached to our identities, Americanness. I know here, what does it mean to be American? What does American look like? What does an American behave like? What do they speak? What do they eat? How do they spend their time?
mm,
And there's so many ways to show that. There's so many ways to be that. There is not a right answer or a wrong answer. And I think it's very personal. It can be very personal for a lot of people to identify a certain way and the way that maybe popular society makes us feel like we're not enough
mm,
this to be called this thing. And I don't want to, like, like we said before, feel like Swedish people are all one way. To you, what is your Swedishness? What makes you feel Swedish?
Mm. I think I have my two sides. So there's and maybe it's easier to just say, okay, this is my Americanness and as I was raised, and the rest is like the Swedishness. But the Americanness, I would attribute, like, for example, having good confidence, like self-confidence in myself and my abilities. I can do anything I set my mind to. I am not scared of public speaking. I think public speaking is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. That's not Swedish. Swedish is being like, oh, I don't want to speak in front of people. But Americanness is like, yeah, I would love to do a TED talk or whatever, like that kind of thing. Whereas like, yeah, I'm not apologizing for my existence. I am here. I'm allowed to be here and I will take up space, not too much space. Like there the Swedish part comes in. Like I'm not taking up too much space. I'm just taking up my space. So that is like the little bit louder part of my personality, or just the self-confidence and not apologizing for my existence. Moving over to the Swedishness, the Swedish side of me is this like very independent, introverted, loyal, I would say. I would say Swedes are in general like quite loyal. So if you break into a friend group, you will have a friend group for life. It's just really, really hard to get over that little hump. But it's like very loyal and just very high integrity and respect for other people. And I think this kind of more calm, soft, maybe more soft traits that I attribute that I call my Swedishness. I'm a time pessimist. Like I would never show up late for anything. So that's like very Swedish, like always on time, preferably 30 minutes early. And yeah, what else feels Swedish? I love just structure and order, cues. A lot of people are like, Swedes love cueing to everything. And I think that's true. I love a good cue. I think I don't complain. Public transport. I love public transport.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. I grew up like way out on the like countryside. So I've always
Okay.
relied on public transport, and public transport here compared to maybe the US is night and day. So it really, Swedes would say it's awful. Like my boyfriend hates public transport
Okay.
because he has never had to rely on it.
Okay.
So like if a bus is 10 minutes late, he's like, oh, I hate buses. But for me growing up, it was like one bus an hour. That's what you had to work with. And like, that was good. Like, I'm not complaining. On Sundays, 2 buses the entire day. Just figure it out. So I love public transport. And yeah, I feel like that's pretty Swedish of me as well. I'm sure there are other things that are also very Swedish, but those are the main ones that come to mind.
For our listeners, please let us know how we can connect with you and how we can subscribe to your content.
So I pop up a little bit of everywhere, like Facebook, TikTok, all of that. But my main account is on Instagram. And you can just search for Slow Swedish and I will be there. And if you're interested in studying Swedish with me, my website, slowswedish.com, has all the information about my podcasts and kind of what I offer my people. And if you, by any chance, you're kind of close to where I am in Östergötland or Motala, which is the tiny, tiny town that I live in, I am hosting these kind of board game meetups for people learning Swedish. So definitely keep an eye out for that. My goal is to take it on the road and do it in all of Sweden eventually, but the logistics are very challenging. So we'll see when I get around to that. But yeah, if you're close by, you're very welcome to join us.
Okay. Are the logistics challenging because of public transportation?
No, actually it's not. It's because of my little puppy who needs a puppy sitter. And it's, and honestly, the logistics problem is the financing of this thing, because I want to keep, like, I don't want the participants to finance it. And I don't want to lose money doing it.
Yeah.
So that means someone has to be paying for this.
Okay.
And it means I have to find companies that are willing to help us out so that I can take my little board game meetup on the road. And I really look forward to that.
Well, I was just teasing, and I look forward to that too. I hope that, people all over the country will be excited, looking forward to that. I will add links to your website, to your socials in the show notes for this episode so that people who want to connect and want to follow you and are ready to learn Swedish can connect with you right away.
Perfect.
I've had so much fun chatting with you in this time.
Me too. I hope we've covered, I don't even know what we've been talking about. So many things, but hopefully it was interesting and you guys learned something. I don't know.
Yeah, I learned so much. So I hope that I also hope that the audience has picked up some Swedish along the way. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
I like to end each episode with the same question just to have some fun. Not like we weren't having fun this whole time, but do you have any jokes, popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, words of wisdom, or words of advice in Swedish to share and to teach us?
Yes. And I think anyone who has been exposed to Swedish or Sweden, they would not forgive me if I did not pick this tongue twister. Like, it's the one everybody knows and it's the one everybody loves. So I guess I have to teach you. How are you with sounds? You like them?
I do my best.
Swedish is amazing because we have like 8 or 9 different spellings for the same sound. So this, and our letter 7 is sju.
One more time.
Sju. Sju.
Hey.
And so you want to blow a little bit more? Sju.
Yeah.
Mhm. Almost. It's
Okay.
getting there. So this tongue twister is just a bunch of those sounds over and over and over, basically.
Yay.
So I'll say it to you fast first, and then we can go through word by word.
Okay.
77 sjösjuka sjömän skötte som 7 sköna sjuksköterskor på det sjunkande skeppet Shanghai. And basically what it means is 77 seasick seamen were taken care of by 7 lovely nurses on the sinking ship Shanghai. Ready? Let's go. Okay, so the first one is 77.
One more time.
77.
77.
Yes. That's 77.
Okay.
Sjuka.
Sjuka.
Seasick. Sjömän. Män.
Men. Oh.
Så 77 sjösjuka sjömän sköttes.
What? Tess?
Were taken care of 7
Of who?
were taken care of by 7 sköna.
Nah.
Lovely. Sjuksköterskor.
Jesus Christ. Wait a minute. Start that one over. I'm writing this as phonetically as possible.
Yeah, I'll send you the what it's actually spelled like in the chat so you can kind of follow along.
Okay.
So we have done 77 sjösjuka sjömän sköttes av 7 sköna sjuksköterskor.
Deskor.
Sjuksköterskor.
Okay.
På det or på det.
What? Diet.
Sjunkande.
Kam.
Sjunkande.
Gambe.
Sjunkande. So A-N-D-E. Sjunkande.
And it.
Sjunkande. Skeppet.
Say that again.
Skeppet.
Skeppet.
And then we have just the name of the ship, which is Shanghai.
Shanghai.
Yeah,
Okay.
we know that one.
I want you to know this spelling does not help me.
No, it really doesn't. It makes no sense.
Okay. I'm not going to get it fast, but can we go over it one more time?
Mm-hmm.
And I will do my best. Because we will be here for the rest of the day.
Yes.
I'm trying to get this right. But let me repeat after you one more time.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap it up.
Okay. 77.
Huttihu,
Sjösjuka.
hwafuta,
Sjömän.
hwamen,
Sköttes av.
sköttes av,
7 sköna.
sköna,
7 sköterskor.
sköterskor, sköterskor,
Och det.
och
Exakt.
det.
Sjunkande skeppet.
Kan det, what? Tet? Am I saying P or T?
Skeppet. So first P and then T at the end.
Pet.
Yeah. Shanghai.
Shanghai. I got to review this alphabet with you, Katrin.
And this tongue twister actually just shows you 2 of our spellings. We have like
Okay.
6 more.
Yeah. All right. Well, you got to come back now. We got to do an alphabet conversation.
Yes.
No, this is fun. And now I'm understanding, like hearing the sounds and seeing it at the same time is a different level of consciousness for me. I'm enjoying this. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Tongue twister. I don't get tongue twisters very often, so I really appreciate that. And I hope that our Swedish learners and listeners and everybody else is following along while we did that. Before I let you go really quickly in your town, or maybe, anywhere in Sweden, after you've been having a conversation with someone for quite some time, but you're about to go your separate ways, what would be a good way to say goodbye?
There is a very Swedish way. There's a very Gothenburg-ish way of saying goodbye. Like the other ones are just like regular Swedish. Bye, see ya. But the Gothenburg way is very characteristic. So I think you would enjoy that. And basically what they say is like, have a good one, bye, but with their kind of weird accent. And what they say is, ha det gött, hej. So, ha det gött, hej.
Ha det gott, hej.
Exactly.
Katrin, ha det gott, hej.
Ha det gött, hej.
Thank you so much again, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
New episodes of Speaking Tongues are available every Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to like and share episodes with other language lovers like yourselves.